Hey, my friend, and welcome to Aligned to Rise, the podcast for ambitious women who are ready to rise above their symptoms, release old limitations, and fully rise into their true power and potential. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez, functional nutritionist, performance coach, and former endo and infertility warrior who knows what it's like to feel held back by your body and your beliefs. I've taken a journey of true healing from the inside out so that I can show up feeling great in my body, confident and unstoppable. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Through a blend of functional nutrition and deep mindset work, this show will empower you to reclaim your vitality, trust your intuition, and live unapologetically in your purpose. If you're ready to align your body, mind, and spirit so you can rise to your highest potential, you're in the right place. Let's rise, my friend. This show was created for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for medical advice or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to Aligned to Rise. Today's special guest, I am so excited to bring to you. I know I say that every time, but I just really enjoy her. I really enjoy what she talks about. Her and I just really resonate on so many levels. So Dr. Jennifer is a certified trauma-informed hypnotherapist and a spiritual hypnosis trainer. She helps especially high-achieving women and healers to really heal those emotional root causes, which is something I have been talking about more and more on the podcast. It has been incredibly important and life-changing for me, as I have shared. She also helps people to regulate their nervous system and just get to that aligned life that they really want to live. So she has also specifically helped some women with endometriosis. I know a lot of women in my audience struggle with endometriosis. That's where my journey first started also. And so she has some very specific stories about how these tools have actually helped women with endometriosis, which is fantastic, and just pain and all the things in general. And I really love how she blends science, spirituality, and joy along with the deep transformation. I think that that is so incredibly beautiful. And it's one of these things that really, truly just isn't talked about enough in our current environment, at least in general, that I have noticed. So I'm so thrilled to bring more conversations like this on the podcast. You are going to absolutely love Dr. Jennifer. She is fantastic. And I can't wait for her to share her stories with you, some case studies. She has just so much wonderfulness to share. So I will let her take it away. All right. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I am so excited to have you on here.
Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I know we chatted a couple weeks back and I got to hear about what you do and all of the beautiful work that you're doing. And I'm excited for everybody to get to hear about that because it's the work that you're doing. And I think it's something that so many people can connect with. So we will definitely be diving into all of that today about who you are, what you do, kind of your story and your journey that led you to where you are today.
Yes, absolutely. So let me start when I was 19. I actually left my home country, Germany, and I moved to LA to study and to also get away from family. And then I studied there and I got a job as a managing editor of 22 newspapers. And in that job, I wasn't quite fulfilled. And I couldn't grow inside the company, but I had great bosses and like people were great there. But for me, it wasn't the right thing. So while I was being unfulfilled there, I was also wrecking my personal life because I just wasn't happy. And so at some point, I had made really bad decisions until my friend was like, "Hey, Jenny, I think you should go see my hypnotherapist." And then I was like, "Okay, let me do that." So then we set up a session. And the next day after the session, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I had made the decision to quit my job and travel the world. And that was my first hypnotherapy session. That's what it led to. And I was like, powerful. And I kind of want to do this also. So after I quit my job and I started traveling the world, I also worked for another hypnotherapist. And she helped me with repairing the relationship to my mom and with my business and with money and like a lot of other things. And so eventually I started studying it. And then I received clients that I was able to help get rid of physical tension, that I was able to help get pregnant, that I was able to help get rid of back pain. And finally, I wanted to go into my PhD. And my friend suggested, hey, you should help people with endometriosis get rid of their symptoms and pain and, just endometriosis. And I was like, interesting. Let me see if I can do that. And so I set up a first session with somebody who had that, and it was very successful. So I continued with my own case study, and I took 5 women, and I did it for my PhD in spiritual healing. And the 5 women they had less symptoms, they had less pain, and they increased their emotional well-being. So it was a full success.
Fantastic. And I would definitely love to hear more about that. We'll definitely dig into, how that went and just all the things you want to share in regards to that. I think that's just so cool and so fantastic. I know I've shared with you a little bit of my personal journey on that, which I've talked about on the podcast, but I want to hear more about what you have to share today. But let's start just kind of at the very beginning, because I think that this is a concept that maybe not everybody fully understands, just the idea of how things like trauma and suppressed emotions can show up as physical symptoms and how that really works in the body, because that may just be a new concept to some people.
Yes, absolutely. So there is science on this already, even though some people say like, I quite don't believe it because, it's hereditary, or it just exists because of environmental things, or I just get sick because I just get sick, or I have a bad immune system or whatever. However, it has been scientifically proven that our emotions that have been stored inside of our bodies, and also our ancestors' emotions, have been stored inside of our bodies because of trauma, because of things that happened to us in the past that we just swallowed instead of processed or instead of let out. These are actually causing dis-ease inside of our bodies, and they're causing autoimmune diseases, or they cause, even flus or ear aches or broken legs or whatever. Everything has an emotional meaning. And also, people who are into spirituality, they know everything has a spiritual meaning as well, right? Mm-hmm. So what's really interesting is that with endometriosis specifically, it is one, sexual trauma. It's very much with the womb space, right, of us women. Mm-hmm. The womb space always has to do with sexual trauma, or it has to do with our creativity because the womb is the center of creation, or it has to do with ancestral trauma. And yeah, scientifically, this has bin proven that emotions are stored in the body simply because, let us go to a trauma that everyone can relate to, right? So let's say there's a creepy guy on the street and he catcalls you, or he says something stupid to you, and he's just creepy and you just want to run away. The next time you go back to that street corner, you will either feel jittery, like you feel like, oh, like I don't corner. The next time you smell that guy's scent, you will be remembered of that situation. The next guy, you maybe see the glasses or the hat this guy was wearing. You're like, oh, fuck, that was a creepy guy that was wearing this, even though a completely different person was wearing this. So there's this trauma that has been created in your body and you've stored it. And if you are not someone who has consciously tried to release this trauma, or who has worked on themselves, or who has undergone like anything, personal development, right, any modality, whatever, to release this trauma from your body, those emotions are stuck. And also cancer, it's like anger, it's frustration in different parts of the body that have to do also with different people or with different things that are stuck there. So, and in the stomach, for example, it's worry, anxiety, like what really hurts us or what bugs us when we're anxious. It's our stomach, or our heart. Grief about people that we've lost, about lovers that we've lost, is inside the heart. So people who get strokes or anything with the heart, most likely there has been a big heartache in their life.
Yeah, I find all of this to be so fascinating, just how, and it makes so much sense when you lay it out, right? What you've experienced in your life I love how you're even talking about the ancestral stuff that this, some of the things that come up may not even be within your lifetime, which I know, okay, this may sound a little out there to some people, but I also feel like I feel like there's many places where we have seen this and it becomes kind of more obvious in bigger areas. Like, for example, somebody who's descended from people who were slaves once upon a time, may have some pieces that they carry over, because goodness knows that's a very large trauma. But even on a smaller scale, that can absolutely be carried through in ways that we probably aren't even really aware of, because some of the things that our ancestors have been through, you may not even really know about it, which I find to be so fascinating. I would love if you can just share a little bit more about that, kind of what that can look like, and maybe some cases that you've seen in relation to that.
Absolutely. So let me get into a personal case first. So my ancestors, I am German, so all of my grandparents have been through World War II. Some of them have also been through World War One, right?
Mhm.
There was constant famine, starvation. There was not enough food, and so my grandparents would always keep the last little bit of food, or they would always eat all of their plate, and everyone at home was always like, yeah, you have to eat everything, you have to eat everything, or you have to save everything, you have to save everything, because they wouldn't know when the next time was going to be when they're going to get food, right? And so me, now when I have to throw away food, I'm like, no, I can't throw away food, right?
Yeah.
So this is all and simple, but it goes up to where I had a client also for my PhD study. Her grandmother was in the war between Turkey and Greek, so there was a genocide happening at the beginning of the 19th or the 20th century, I believe, and her grandmother was in that as well. There's also, by the way, there's a great series on Netflix. It's called Another Self. It's all about ancestral trauma.
Hmm.
If anyone wants that is super, super interesting. So, but anyway, with my client, it was that her grandmother was abused and she was in quote unquote the wrong grave that we found out inside the hypnosis session. And inside the hypnosis session, we had to move her soul, so to say, to another grave, which sounds absolutely nuts. But at the end of the day, this was the root cause of her endometriosis. And then we had other people who were saying that their grandmothers have been betrayed, they've been silenced, they've been suppressed, as it was the case with a lot of women, right? And so that's why now this generation has endometriosis, because if you cannot express yourself, this is a limit on your creativity, which is the center of creation. Again, is the womb. So this is another thing. So anyone who may have had, I think all of us have had women in our families who've been silenced and
Yeah.
suppressed. When you look at that more closely, you'll actually find a link. You may be able to find a link to your disease or to your chronic illness or something,
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
so fascinating. There's so many different experiences, so many different things that can come up for people, and yeah, it may it may sound a little out there, a little different, but it's one of those things. I always say, if you've tried all of the conventional things and you haven't found the support that you need, why not? What have you got to lose, really, in experiencing some of this? I know some people may have some hesitancy at first, but I feel like when you've experienced this and you get to really see what it's like on the other side, what really comes up for you. It allows you to kind of learn more about yourself and your history and where you came from and all these things. So I think it's super cool. So I would love if you can share a little bit about, you were talking about, I know you've done your PhD on this, so you've really dug deep into all of this. I would love if you can share a little bit about kind of that science behind the mind body healing, and that, working through rewiring the subconscious mind. I would love to hear a little bit about all of that.
Yes, absolutely. So first, I want to recommend a book which is called "The Body Keeps the Score" by Bessel van der Kolk. It's a very famous book. It's all about how trauma is being stored inside of your body, and if you don't get it out, it causes disease. And also, Gabor Mate has a bunch of books on that subject, and it's basically that, like I said before, the emotions that have not been expressed or that have not been processed, they will stay in that, they will remain in your body. And when you want to release those emotions, when you want to get them out, some people say you have to relive the experience. Other people say you don't have to relive the experience. I'm a type of person, I say it's up to the individual. And I also do this in my session. If somebody wants to relive this experience, they can. If they don't have to. Or if they want to relive it from above, from seeing it from a bubble from above, they can do that. So I'm not either or. I'm saying whatever helps the person. And the person knows, like once they're in hypnotherapy, for example, like in hypnosis, I just relax your body and your mind so that you can actually access what's deep, deep, deep within you, like in your heart, in your body, whatever has been stored. And we can go years back to situations that you don't even remember. We can go back to your ancestral things. We can go back to your mom, to your grandmother. We can go back to past lives. So it's really finding the root cause of whatever it is that you have going on, whether it's a disease or whether it's a problem with money, health, relationships, whatever it is, right? We go back to the root cause. And then today also there was a session where we had to go back to the root cause of, or limiting beliefs, right? I'm not enough, or I'm always comparing myself to people, or what was the other one? Oh yeah, I'm unhappy with something. We go back to that root cause. And then a lot of times, so there's three root causes that it could be. The first root cause could go back to a past life. And that's often the case with fears and phobias, or if it's a relationship that isn't really working well, like it's a toxic relationship in this life, then it can go back to your ancestors, which is oftentimes a disease or even limiting beliefs, or it can go back to your current life, which is also mostly limiting beliefs, I would say, or anything that happened in childhood that has impacted trauma from this life. And then once you found this root cause, you can work around it with a specialist like a hypnotherapist. I personally believe that therapy, it takes you years and years and years to go back to the root cause, because you cannot peel back so many layers and sessions that therapy give you. And I oftentimes have therapists and psychotherapists refer their clients to me. And then after their clients come back to them, they're like, whoa, one session with you has been like 20 years of therapy. How the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
So this also is such a great tool. And then when you have found the root cause, you can actually release it. So you release all the emotions. You have the person breathe out the emotions. You have the person imagine taking them out with their hands. Or you have the person doing some inner child work, for example, where they tell their younger version of themselves that, hey, you're safe. Everything's okay. Yes, you've had shit happen to you, but you've learned this through the shit and you're still alive and everything's okay. And you actually have a beautiful life now that you can be grateful for, or anything like that, right? And so hypnotherapy combines everything. And then there's things like EMDR, which is eye movement. Then there's breathwork. Then there is EFT, which also works with the body and the mind, which I think is always the best. Like something that works with the body and the mind is always beautiful. So that's how you can release the emotional baggage that you may have.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that there's so many different modalities too, and I think to some extent it's a matter of what works for the individual too. It's there's always that it's something I talk about a lot, is the bio-individuality, just what you really connect with, and it may require a little bit of just experimenting and seeing what works, but you're absolutely right in the sense that you can really release and also just say accomplish so much in a short span of time, because you're really just going kind of straight to the heart of the matter and, uncovering things that you probably didn't know about, or maybe, had no awareness that your body was storing that. And I absolutely love all of those books that you were just talking about are ones that I've read also. I think I have on my bookshelf behind me here. It's just so fascinating, the connections between our mind, our subconscious mind, our physical bodies. There's just so much interconnectedness there. And it's one of those things, I know, speaking for myself, growing up or even early adulthood, just really, really separating the two. Like, this is my brain, this is my body, and not really putting the two pieces together, but they're so intimately connected. And I think the more that we're aware of that, the deeper that you're going to be able to really find that healing. And I think that that's so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I do too. And there's one more book I want to mention because it has been the most powerful for me. I really want to make sure I mention this on this podcast. So it's called The Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases. It's by a therapist who's called Jacques Martel, and he has written down every disease or ailment that you can think of. So whether it's endometriosis, whether it's something with the foot, something with the kidneys, something with the eyes, he has written all of that down, and he will lay out the emotions for you. And when I used that book, there was a point in time when I had an earache, and I tried, I haven't had earache since I was a little child, and I've had an earache, and I tried medicine and all of that. And then I tried this, or I read this book, and I was like, I was reading, I was like, there was something you didn't want to hear. And I was like, right away, I knew exactly what it was. Earache was gone, gone. And I get chills when I read these. And then also oftentimes, like my friends will come to me. They're like, Jenny, what does this mean? Like, please let me know. Look it up in your book. And I'm like, okay, I'll look it up. So I read this in the book, and we're always mind blown of how accurate it is. So this is really something I want to recommend.
Awesome. I haven't read that one, but I'm definitely going to go and check that one out. I do have Louise Hay's book, which is kind of a similar idea. Is that one? I think that one's You Can Heal Your Body. Is that the name of that? Yeah. And heal.
That is also great.
Yeah.
So the encyclopedia is way more detailed.
Okay.
Heal Your Life also used it. The encyclopedia is super incredibly detailed. It's like mind blowing.
Cool. I'm going to have to go check that one out. That's heading in my Amazon cart later today. Thank you for that. I'm always looking for new resources, new books. So I'm super excited to check that one out. Okay, so I know you were talking earlier about the case studies that you did, especially you had those 5 women with endometriosis that you were working with while you were doing your PhD study, which I think is so cool. I would love if you can actually unpack that a little bit more and just share with us some of the insights that people found, some of the things that came up, and just kind of the transformations that you were seeing during that time that you were working with these people.
Yes, absolutely. So the first woman that I worked with, she wasn't part of my study, but it was my first, like, I'm going to call her a guinea pig because I needed to see for myself that I'm able to do that before I do a whole study with that. So the first woman that I worked with, she had endometriosis, celiac, and Hashimoto's, which is very common to be together, right? It's like a triangle of diseases or whatever. So when we went back to her root cause, it had to do something with her ancestors, with her mother in that case. And there was also something that we did to release the emotion, which she didn't believe in at first. But after the session, she actually was a believer. And she came to me with like serious PMS symptoms, to the point where she was like, even my husband is suffering. Like every single month, I'm going crazy and I have mood swings and cravings and all of this. And I let it out on my husband. And then she had severe period pain. And then after a single session, just one session, she said, Jenny, this time in my cycle, I woke up and I said to my husband, I'm on my period. And he was like, wait, just like that? There's nothing, no mood swings, no cravings, no nothing. And so this was super amazing to see. And the next time she messaged and she was like, I went partying on the first day of my period. This is unheard of. And I was so ecstatic. Like I was so excited about that. This was so cool. And so then I was like, okay, I got something here. So let's do this on more women. And then I found a couple of women on the internet. And one of them, she mentioned to me, she was like, she has ER level pain. So sometimes she needed to go into the ER, right, to just get rid of her pain. Taking pills. And all of the women had tried, they've tried pills, they've tried nutrition, they've tried exercising, they had tried it all. And nothing was really helping. So this woman, we also found out something with her grandmother. Betrayal, suppressing, all of that, like what I mentioned before. After the session, she was like, I look forward to my cycle now. I am proud to be the one that gets to heal the shit for the rest of my family, for my ancestors, for everyone. Like, I look forward to my cycle, and my cycles are manageable, and it's like amazing. And I think she went from a 10 in pain down to a 3 or something. Like, it was a really insane transformation that she had. Then there was another woman who had also tried everything, and she was on a great path already. Like with her, it was like she was down from her pain already because she had tried like nutrition, exercise, all the things. But she was like, there's still something that I cannot pinpoint that I need help with. And I said, okay, let's do it. And we actually found it. It was also linked to ancestors, the maternal ancestors. And for her, it was a sense of, I need to be doing less. I need to be asking for more help, asking for more support. and I need to be more creative. I need to just, enjoy life more, let in pleasure, because who does that when they have a chronic disease? Like, how often do you have joy and pleasure? You don't. And even if you feel it for a certain time, you're like, oh, when is the other shoe about to drop, right? So this was a big, big thing for her. And this was also a pattern that I found in the study, that the women were out of touch with their feminine energy, which means basically they were overdoing, overgiving, overthinking, not in touch with their intuition, not in touch with their body, not in touch with their womb. They were working against their bodies, not with their bodies. And they were just complete, like, and they relied on, doctors' opinions and other people's opinions and science or whatever, instead of their own body, instead of their own inner wisdom. And so this is totally what changed for this woman, which was amazing. Then there was another woman who was an artist, or she is an artist, right? But she was like, Jenny, I'm not creating from a place because I think endometriosis is hindering me to create. I don't feel good enough to create, because who am I to create because I'm sick and I have this stupid disease and da 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 da. And so I was like, okay, then let's figure this out. And with her, it was 3 sessions. There was one woman where we just did one, then with her it was three, so it differed a little bit, but 3 was the most. So with her it was 3 sessions, and for her it was mainly her artistry. And then in the 3rd session, we finally got our breakthrough, where it was like, okay, I am a good artist no matter if I have endometriosis, and I get to use the emotions that I have when I'm down and tired and sick and feeling bad. I get to use these emotions to create art, because people can relate to that. And it was just a whole liberation for her, which was also really, really beautiful and really powerful. Then there was a lady who said she was able to work out on her, I think it was before her period, on like the first day or something. She was like, I'm doing HIIT workouts. Like, that was unheard of before. So these are the types of transformations that I found. And the root cause that was the most common was the maternal ancestral root cause. It had to do with their mother in some way. The second root cause was because they're not super connected to their feminine energy. They're out of balance with it. And then there were 2 other root causes, which was one, the sexual abuse, and then the one with the creation, like she cannot create. Yeah, it was a super interesting study. And I want to I want to connect with, like real medical I'm also a real doctor, but like medical doctors who actually, or like gynecologists who want to connect with me, where I can say, okay, let's do a study together. I bring my expertise, you bring yours, and let's help women to heal more and to connect with their womb and to be in their bodies more and to really heal. Because I truly believe that we can even heal endometriosis if I were have to do another study. I would do it longer, so I could prove that we could even heal this, because there is people out there like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has made himself walk again and be okay again after he was paralyzed. Mm-hmm. And he just did that with the power of his mind. Louise Hay did the same thing. There's other people who did the same thing. So healing is possible. And I want to share that. And I want to bring this out into the world and really let people know that it is possible. I'm also helping people who have cancer to find the emotional root cause of that. And with cancer, I want to say it's a bit harder. I wanted to do this originally for my study, but it's a bit harder because cancer has been, in society, it has been deemed as you're going to die within, however, how many months or years or days even. And cancer is also like, oh, the only treatment is radiology and chemotherapy, which, by the way, was a PR campaign a few years ago, where the president of the United States, the media, and newspapers and everyone else was completely working together to make this, quote unquote, the only working therapy that's available, even though there's other things which are much simpler, but I'm not going to get so much into that. I don't want to get into it. But yeah, it's a bit harder because with cancer, you have to work through a lot more limiting beliefs. But I do believe even that is possible to heal if you have the right mindset and the right nutrition. Obviously, it's always a holistic approach, mind, body, mm-hmm. spirit. That's it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And we've all heard these miracle stories and so many different things of people walking who were told they would never walk again, people who were told they have months to live, and then all of a sudden their scans are coming back completely clear and there's no explanation behind it. And that just shows you the power of your mind, the power of just the human spirit and energy and all of the things. And I think that's so beautiful. And I hope that anybody listening is left with some hope at the end of the day, listening to this, of just, there is something else, there is something more to reach to. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing. And I love what you were saying too about just the being able to really reconnect with yourself, with your own intuition, your inner knowing, your inner wisdom about what your body really needs, what it's asking for. Because one thing that I have come to realize more and more is that when there are symptoms coming up of any kind in your body, really it's yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, all of the things trying to tell you something, giving you some form of communication. It's kind of like what you were talking about, the example with your earache that you were having. There was a clear signal that you were being sent of there's something that you need to be aware of. And I think, unfortunately, so often we're kind of taught to just push that to the side, to ignore it, to just push through and carry on with life anyway, no matter what's going on. I know this was my experience having endometriosis, even, I don't know exactly when in life I developed it. I didn't find out until my late 20s, but I definitely had symptoms much, much earlier than that. But honestly, I think a big part of my delay in diagnosis even was the fact that I was taught growing up that basically you don't let something like your period hold you back from life. Like, you kind of just pop some Advil and keep going. Even when the pain was getting pretty debilitating. It was just like, well, I'm not going to be that girl who just stays home sick because she's on her period. That's silly, rather than trying to really listen to what my body was telling me. And I think that's so incredibly common. And I think it's such a powerful thing to really have that way of communicating and learning what exactly your body is trying to tell you with that symptoms. I think that's so incredibly powerful.
Exactly. And the thing is, we don't get taught that. Like, nobody teaches that shit in school. Like, nobody even knows how to do that, right? And certainly our parents and our grandparents, they had other shit to do and to worry about. Like, people who were in the world wars, people who were slaves, people who were, different, they weren't worried about their emotions and their traumas or whatever. They were worried about survival. And so now that we actually have this time on our hands, especially in the Western world, right? Not so much in maybe other countries, but in the Western world, we get into this and we have the time and we can actually say, like, okay, let me rest and let me see what my body's saying.
Yep. 100%. Couldn't agree more. I love that. Now, I would love if you can share. I love all the transformations that you've been sharing and examples in your own personal life and with some of the people you've worked with. I would love if you can just, so people can start to kind of develop a picture of this. Can you explain to us a little bit about how the hypnosis, or if you have any other modalities you wanted to bring into that as well, just kind of what that actually looks like, how that works, and just how that can work into maybe what you're already doing on your healing journey.
Absolutely. So hypnosis is not mind control, and it is not somebody swinging a pendulum in front of your eyes or anything like that. Unfortunately, that's what hypnosis has been portrayed as. But and also there is stage hypnosis, right? That can happen, but it is not hypnotherapy. It is not what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is actually, before we go to the therapy part, I help people to relax and to relax their mind and their body, so everything's completely relaxed, so they can access what is deep inside of them, so that they can access memory that they've long forgotten or that they didn't want to access, so they can access ancestral trauma, or they can access past lives even. And that only happens when you're in a relaxed state of mind, because right now you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, you're analyzing, you're criticizing, maybe you're distracted. Things are happening around you, things are happening in your head. And when you're not relaxed, you're just, elsewhere with your mind. And so in hypnosis, we take all of that away and we really bring it down to the core, to the deepest core of you. I like to call it your soul. if you're Christian, it's I'm not speaking about the soul. If you're Muslim, I'm also not speaking about anything like that. I'm just saying to your deepest core, basically. That's it. But it works for any religion. It's not from the devil as well. So it works for anyone. And it is scientifically proven. There has been a lot of studies. Unfortunately, like I said, in media, it has been portrayed a bit differently. But when you actually know about hypnotherapy, it's the magic you need in your life, is what I always say. And then once you are relaxed, we can work around anything. We can see everything, and we can just, whatever it is that you need, we can figure it out. Or we can even help you, like if you want to manifest something like your dream house, your dream job, your dream business, your dream anything, then we can also do that in hypnosis. Then, for example, breath work is really amazing if you want to release something, if you want to release a big trauma, or if you want to just release physical tension, or if you're just releasing, and breath work it works just amazingly well together. And for me, what breath work does, interestingly enough as well, is it gives me downloads, like spiritual downloads, where I have a hypnosis training where I train people to be hypnotherapists. And within a half an hour breathwork session, I downloaded the complete training with 12 weeks of content and everything. Like, it was just wild. And this is also what can happen in breathwork. But this is not breathing like, breathing in for like 5 seconds, holding the breath for 5 seconds, breathing out and whatever. But no, that's not it. Breathwork that I mean is holotropic breathwork. And it's conscious consecutive breathing, always breathing in and out through your mouth, no breaks in between. And it works so well because your brain is not used to it. Your brain is used to having breaks between breathing. But when you solely focus on the breath, it's also the way you get into your deepest core. And with EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, it's what the name already says, you get emotional freedom. So for example, if you're really angry, or if you're depressed or anxious or anything, you can literally go on YouTube and just type in EFT for anxiety, EFT for worries, EFT for pain, EFT for grief, EFT for anything, any emotion. And you will see that after 10 minutes, if you do a guided EFT video with somebody else, after 10 minutes, you will feel differently because your emotions have just been freed. And it is beautiful and it is powerful. So these are a few modalities that I know and that I love. Something that I want to get into actually is somatic release, which is simply a practitioner, pointing or tapping or even pressing either their hands or sometimes their feet, but mostly their hands. They use their hands into your body, into specific points in your body. And like we said, your body stores trauma in specific points in your body. For example, if I press your arm and, there's trauma stored in your body, and if I press it, then you will be able to release it if I press it long enough. And that is what I want to study as well, because I've had that done to me and it was absolutely crazy as well. I even went back to a past life memory when somebody did that. And these are just some examples that I really love and enjoy.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. Again, I feel like I've said this so many times on the podcast, but just so fascinating. I feel like I've experienced, probably all of those modalities at some point or another. I'm one of those people. I'm just like, give me all the things. Let me try all of this. And a lot of it, like you said, the EFT, for example, or tapping as it's also known, is one of those things that's super simple to just, when you are feeling that really revved up anxious state or whatever's going on, it can absolutely just bring things down quickly. I've experienced that myself, been sitting there just feeling one of those moments and be like, okay, let me step out of this for a second, do a little bit of tapping, and it just totally brings those high emotions right down. It's incredibly powerful. And basically what you're doing is actually tapping specific points on your body. You could definitely, like you said, there's so many YouTube videos and stuff showing this, explaining this, but super powerful stuff for sure. And the breath work also, I've had some personal experiences with the breath work and with hypnosis, with all of it. I love all of this stuff. There's just so many different modalities, and definitely something that's, relatively easy to bring into your own experience and just see what this is all about. So cool. Thank you for sharing all of that. So Gosh, I feel like this has been such a beautiful conversation here. Is there anything else that you feel like you'd really like to address that maybe we missed talking about today?
Not really, but what I want to share and what I usually share is that there's always a way, there's always a possibility, and there's always the power within you that you can change things. Because and if you surround yourself with people who have changed, if you listen to people's stories who have changed or overcome something that is like what you have or similar to what you have, the more you put that into your brain, the more your brain will believe that. Because the more, let's say, if you were to put stories into your brain that were not so great, or that somebody died from cancer or something, if you do that, then your brain will believe that more and more. But if you zone out from all of that, if you don't listen to it, it's the same with like not listening to the media or to news or whatever, right? I don't do this anymore, thankfully, so I don't really care. But if you really inundate your brain with the beautiful things in life and the beautiful stories and people who have succeeded and people who have overcome things, overcome chronic disease, overcome endometriosis, overcome anything, then why not you? Why not you? Like, you are not better than them. You are not worse than these people. You are the same as these people. So listen to that more and more and more. Listen to it more and more, to the success. And then why not you?
Absolutely. Love that. Look for evidence of what you really want in life rather than what you don't want. Super powerful. All right. Well, I wanted to finish off with one last question that I love to ask my guests on the podcast here. So the podcast is called Aligned to Rise. And really my intention behind that was the idea of we're bringing, mind, body, and spirit into alignment so that you can really rise into who you want to become, whatever it is that you really desire in your life. So I would love to hear from your experience, because obviously you've taken a deep dive into all of this, the hypnosis and all of these different modalities that you've used along your journey. I would love to hear for you, what is the most powerful experience or, place you've been able to get into your life because you've been able to bring yourself into such beautiful alignment?
I would say actually this year, because I've never been happier than this year. And even though there have been challenges, of course, but I set my words at the beginning of the year to be joy and ease. For the most part, it really has been a joy ride, and it has been easy. And I'm just happy. Also because I've poured a lot into myself. Like I really listen to my body, to my mind. Okay, what do you need? What do you need right now? What can make you happy? What is going to make you happy? And just like focus on that. And I know that way I can serve people the best.
Love that. Beautiful. All right. Well, I know that after listening to this, people are going to want to find you, connect with you, learn more about you. So we will definitely link this in the show notes as well for anybody who is listening while driving or walking or any of the things. But where are the best places that we can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Jennifer Schlueter. Just look in the show notes for the last name. And you can find me on my website at mindyoursubconscious.com. There are lots of free meditations and hypnosis on my website that you can find. You can find me on TikTok and on YouTube and Facebook as well.
Very cool. All right. We will share all of those links that you can all reach out and connect. I'm sure she would love to hear from you all and just hear your thoughts on the show. And, maybe if you've had your own experiences or you're interested in having your own experiences, you can definitely reach out and she'll be happy to connect with you.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I absolutely loved this conversation. This is what makes my job so much fun, because I feel like I just get to come on the show here and have conversations that just really light me up and, get to connect with such beautiful people like you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for doing the work that you do and for having this podcast, because it's going to serve a lot of people, and I'm super happy that you get to do this and that you also love the work that you do, because I do too. So
awesome. Sounds like we're in the right place. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll talk soon. Much love. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aligned to Rise. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to share it with a friend who needs this message too. And then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time, my friend. Let's rise together.